Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. It's good to see you again. Tonight, we turn the spotlight on the ongoing constitution review process driven by the National Assembly. As public consultations continue nationwide, key questions are emerging. Is this a genuine attempt to reform or an elite-led script disguised as inclusion? Earlier this week, a coalition of citizens known as the Patriots convened what they called an all-inclusive constitutional conference aimed at drafting a fresh constitution for Nigeria. But not everyone is convinced. Critics warn that if care isn't taken, the process could deepen mistrust rather than build consensus. Well, to help us unpack these stakes and, of course, the historical context, we are joined virtually from Kano by Professor Auwalu Yadudu. He's a former Deputy Vice Chancellor and Dean of Law at Bayero University in Kano. And of course, a veteran on constitutional conferences from 1987 to 2014. Prof, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Good evening and welcome to the program.
A very good evening to you from Kano.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, let's set the ball in motion by listening to a lot of the opinions that continue to shape the conversation around the constitutional review that has been undertaken so far by the regional conferences or town hall meetings, which have given Nigerians different opinions about how the various parts of the country feel regarding where this conversation is heading towards. Let's have a listen to some of the thoughts and political leaders speaking on what Nigeria needs going forward.
At the summit, stakeholders emphasized the urgent need not just for a new constitution, but for the one that reflects the will and aspirations of the people. Key issues discussed include electoral reforms on how to improve Nigeria's electoral system for greater transparency, inclusiveness, and accountability.
We are not concerned with the citizen. If we're going to rebuild Nigeria, it has to be on the basis of a nation of citizens, not a nation that we elite want. This is what we have been getting wrong. We're talking about how we want to see Nigeria. Nobody's talking about the federation of citizens. First, identify the citizen. Go back to the Constitution. Read Chapter 2, the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Read what is in there. That's the closest we came to defining what Nigeria should be, how Nigeria should govern, what ideals we should shape.
Wishes to look at the electronic system of voting. And I wish to submit without any fear of contradiction that Nigerian courts are totally opposed to the introduction of any form of electronic voting. In 2010 Electoral Act, amended in 2015 by the Jonathan administration, empowered INEC to adopt any method, any procedure, fit to conduct credible elections in Nigeria.
Speakers at the event stressed that constitutional democracy is vital because it combines majority rule with the protection of individual rights and freedoms as enshrined in the Constitution. Such a system, they said, ensures accountability in governance, checks abuse of power, and promotes national stability. They concluded that by upholding the rule of law and limiting the powers of government, constitutional democracies help create a more just, equitable, and inclusive society, underscoring the relevance and urgency of the summit's discussions.
Those are some of the snippets of the views of some of the public speakers at that summit a couple of days ago. But of course, there were a lot more crucial takes that will delve into during the course of the conversation. So let's bring in our panelists. Professor Auwalu Yadudu is joined the conversation from Kano. Prof, thank you most kindly for joining us once again. I just want to get your reading, your take on this momentum around the conversation for constitution review. It's safe to say that the conversation or the opinions from Kano, for instance, Governor Abba Kabir was part of the Kaduna engagement, and he's asking for the creation of more councils. I mean, Kano has arguably the largest number of local councils in the state. I mean, side by side with Lagos. But what do you make of the momentum around the conversation we're having right now about reviewing the Nigerian constitution?
Well, thank you for engaging me in this. The fact of the matter is our constitution is not a tablet of commandments from God sent to Moses or to the nation, which admit of no alteration or modification. The constitution should be a living document that those who operate it would find it workable or not so workable. And the movement going on, I think a parallel movement, so to speak. The National Assembly, the two arms of the National Assembly are engaged in the process of town hall meetings, public hearing to hear the opinion of the Nigerian public as to the project which they have embarked upon amending the constitution. And then, of course, just in the last few days, you have alluded to the ongoing so-called national conference going on in Abuja that also seeks to perhaps address the matter differently. And how so, one does not know. But of course, they said they're going to have communicate, even a bill that they will submit to the Mr. President for onward processing. So my view is that it is legitimate for the public to interrogate both the players and the instrument of governance, and you cannot fault either exercise. So the National Assembly is amending the Constitution. You might say this is something which has been going on for millennia, but of course they're doing it according to their understanding of the constitutional provision that mandates on them to alter it.
Right. And Prof, it's safe to say that, you know, just like you pointed out, the Constitution itself has been reworked over and over. The National Assembly has been making amendments to bits and pieces of it. But how organic is the Constitution in light of what we're practicing right now, constitutional democracy? Because what was handed to Nigerians in the Fourth Republic was something of a byproduct of the military leadership who handed civilian rule back to the country. Do you think that this current engagement has the needed impetus to really give Nigerians something that we can call an organic constitution that actually captures the expression, we the people?
Well, I think they say if you want to condemn a dog, you give it a bad name. The 1999 Constitution is not a military constitution as such. It is a constitutional document that has gone through processes of discussions over the years, from 77 to date. It has gone through different modifications, and it has been worked by the people. And it contains things that are not necessarily military in nature. So it is not a military constitution. But of course, those who want to have nothing to do with it can call it what they wish. It is what we have. It is organic. And being by organic, it is meant that it is something that can be modified, something that can be changed, something that can even be thrown away. But of course, one must have admit or accept the fact, if you want to be legitimate, if you want also not to subject yourself to the charges of you imposing what you call a people's document on the nation when there is no such engagement of the people. So to me, changes are being brought to it. They may not be on the scale or even depth that the Nigerians want, but changes all the same.
And Prof, over the past couple of weeks, some of the key issues that have dominated the conversation around those conferences or town halls are familiar conversations: state creation, state police, council creation, electoral reforms. How realistic are some of the conversations you're hearing in regards to the views of the various stakeholders involved? You hear state governments asking for extra local government areas. You hear stakeholders, civil society, demanding certain constitutional powers given to traditional rulers. You hear conversations around state police and all of the other structural issues that may actually, to some, bring about true federalism. What do you make of some of the arguments that have been made so far with regards to the points around what needs to change?
Well, to me, there should not be a limit to what people can demand on any issue. It may sound ridiculous to some if for example, Lagos State has 20 local government, by the way, if they ask for 50 more local government areas, or if Kano, which has 44, asks for more, or your state, which has 37 or even 40, and it asks for more. Any number of issues that are being discussed, they may sound reasonable, but I think it is through discussion, through the processes of lawmaking, the alteration process. Don't forget that the public hearing is only one component of the alteration that can be brought about. The document or any set of demands that people are making will be subjected to their own representatives at the National Assembly, who would come to a decision one way or another regarding create more states or more local governments or whatever, or state police. Now, the same process also would, of course, have to receive the concurrence, the agreement of 2/3 of a number of states in the federation. Ultimately, it becomes a constitution when it is assented to by the president. So you see, any number of issues that are being thrown for discussion are not to be viewed as unrealistic or ridiculous or even nonsense. They would have to go through the process, and that is how a people's constitution or amendment emerges. But of course, you have to contrast it with an assembly of people who you don't know how they came about, bringing the people together, and they sit and then they draw up a constitution or a bill and throws it at the desk of Mr. President and says that please process it as a new constitution, which is people's constitution. One process is fraught with dangers. It lacks legitimacy. It is not totally transparent. The other one is laborious, perhaps not necessarily in-depth, but it is what the existing legal order envisages, and it is what the legal order can give legitimacy to.
And Prof, you've been a part of this before, right? You understand the history of the evolution of Nigerian constitution. I mean, the several ones that we've had, pre-colonial era, and what happened after the independence, and what we currently have right now. What does our history tell us regarding what we can expect, realistically speaking?
What it tells us is that there cannot be a quantum jump all at once. That there can be incremental changes to the order, the existing order, and that is the experience that one has had over the years. In '63, the three regions came to a decision to become a republic. The same set of regional leaders came to a decision to create a fourth region, the Midwestern region of Nigeria. Over the years, we have adopted a presidential system. I know people would question it, may say anything about it, its workability, expenses, and whatever. But of course, along the way, over the 26 years that we have operated this 1999 constitution, there have been changes. I like to underline the point that they may not be of the quantum, depth, or even acceptability. But of course, since we are working under a legal order, we cannot but be do things legitimately according to the existing order.
So your advice to people who are overwhelmed by what can be achieved is to limit their expectations?
Well, from my experience, I think it is not a bad advice to give that. I do not see the order changing completely to the dimension that many may want. And because, as I said, the process has to undergo certain changes, deliberations, and also the involvement of state governments and what have you. So it is not something that you can expect. As those who are meeting in Abuja are saying they want to have a fresh constitution. I doubt where they get their mandate and what it is that they can throw on the nation and say that this is our constitution accepted by the people.
And Prof,
we'll see.
Is it unreasonable to demand a fresh constitution? Is it something that has never been done before?
Well, I would not say it's unreasonable, but is it practical? It is practicable. Is it doable? You see, a fresh constitution can be brought about only in terms of the existing legal order, the constitution that we operate. Now, if we are able to muster enough political consensus to change anything in the legal order, why not? But of course, there are constraints and there are very many hurdles along the way. And even the politicians and the civil society are unable to come to terms as to whether you wanted more states or you wanted less number of local governments and what have you. So if you are unable to come to terms on those things, how do you come about having a completely new constitution? And in any event, what would that new constitution look like? Is it going to be, as some would want, a parliamentary system which takes us back into the orbit of the parliamentary system, or what sort of constitution are you going to bring about, and how acceptable will it be to the people, and how do you want to have it accepted by the people and brought into force?
And Prof, do you understand the position of those who dismiss the current exercise, citing, for example, what has happened in 2014, where this national collective effort was swept under the rug, to say that, listen, this is just another talk shop. This is just another academic exercise that will not amount to anything. Do you understand the position of people who think in that direction?
Which one are you talking about? The one going on in Abuja at the Hilton Conference, or the one that's been undertaken by the National Assembly?
Including the regional engagements with the town halls across the 6 geopolitical zones by the National Assembly.
Well, people are entitled to their views. What happened in 2014 is that President Jonathan, who convened the conference, was himself not honest enough to push for its implementation to the extent that there were clear things. There were things that could be brought about by policy changes. He didn't require any legislation to do that. There were things that could only be changed through amendment of existing statutory instruments. He didn't take any steps to do that. Of course, there were things that required a constitutional amendment, which also would have to be subjected to the process I outlined. He didn't do that. The conference will convene at in the twilight of his days with an election impending, and obviously it was my view then that it was ill-intended, ill-motive, and it was doomed to fail. So it was a talk show that failed because the motive and the timing were wrong. Perhaps you might say that also the motive, the time of either process is wrong now, and that it may not see the light of the day.
And Prof, to the big question we're asking today, do you think this is an elite-driven agenda, or is this truly an opportunity for ordinary Nigerians to have their say about what will actually be the guiding principle for their day-to-day lives?
Well, speaking for the National Assembly exercise, I think there are different strata of engagement. There is the elite element. There's also the non-elite element. There is the people's engagement in it. But I cannot say so for the Constitution, the conference having been convened in Abuja, claiming to be a people's-driven constitution. It's Hakim has made the point that a quite significant section of the society has been totally ignored, and it's people who are over 70 who are nostalgic about going back to 1960 and not taking into account the existing changes that have been brought about, and then they would want to throw at our face and hoist on us a constitution that they think it is best for the nation. Of course, we would ask, where do they get the mandate to do that?
And of course, some of the speakers there regarding the event, that I get the sense that, Prof, you're not necessarily on board with what they're saying here in Abuja regarding that conference. But you know, it seems to me that the North is quite happy with the status quo, because much of the voices that are clamoring or advocating for some of these radical changes, new constitution and all the other items, are majorly personalities from the southern part of the country. Do you think there's a regional divide in the conversation we're having about this constitution review?
No, talk is cheap, my friend. Talk is cheap. People can just gang up, put up a banner and call themselves what they wish, and that if others don't join, that they are comfortable with it. The North is, I cannot speak for the North, but I think I am not comfortable with the existing order. I would want to see changes brought about. But the fact that I do not show my face at the ongoing outing does not mean that they take one view of the situation which is different from the one I'm taking. But obviously, as I said, and for both sides, by the way, it is very, very, very easy for people to say all sorts of things, nationalities, ethnic nationalities, this and that. But I think there's a limit to what you can say, and there's a limit to what can work out, and there's a requirement that things you do must be, if you want to be a Democrat, and if you want to respect law and order, that you have to do things according to a law and order for you to be considered serious.
And Prof, we already know that the law is always going to be a work in progress, right? What, in your view, are some of those low-hanging fruits that can be delivered in the short term, especially conversations around electoral reform, for instance, because we are heading towards another election in less than 2 years? What are some of those low-hanging fruits that can be worked on right now, especially considering the political distraction that is currently permeating the polity?
I should be honest with you and candid. I don't think there are any low-hanging fruits to be plucked from the source of issue that are being thrown about. When you want to hammer out an agreement on any one given issue, it is not an issue of what is the easiest thing that can be accomplished. It is a matter that requires debate, discussions, consensus building, and also agreements reached, and also the ability to garner enough support for it. I don't think it's just like going into the market and that there are X can be achieved in 1 year. Why we take 5 years? All I know and I think from my experience in constitutional amendment and processes. Look, it took the U.S. very centuries, actually decades, to bring about changes incrementally through amendments to their constitution, much in the manner we are doing. But of course, you may say we are not, we don't have the luxury of time now to plan things and also to do things over 50 years. We want to see things done as quickly as possible. But I don't think it is something that you can, with a wand of magic, just get done overnight.
Wow. Interesting take there. Professor Auwalu Yadudu, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Daily Politics. Really appreciate the analysis.
Thank you so much.